Is this the Transportation Projects Commission?
Thanks, everybody.
I think whenever you want to
Keep going.
yep. And then if you're done, I'll say a couple of things and we'll call it. That's all right.
Good morning, everybody. How's it going today?
Morning.
Hello, those of you that are virtually on. First of all, I want to recognize and welcome the newest members of the Transportation Projects Commission, starting with Senator Jacques, Senator Tomczyk, and Representative Emerson. So thank you for being here. And welcome to everybody else that are veterans to the fifth consecutive annual meeting of the Transportation Project Commission. When we restarted and reinvigorated the TPC in 2019, we're bringing back a really proud tradition of bipartisanship, and it's been going very, very well. I feel very confident in the work that this group is doing. Obviously, safe, reliable infrastructure is critical to the success of Wisconsin's economy and our workforce. It's a shared goal and value that brings all of us together today. Since 2019, I am proud to report to you that we've repaired and improved more than 7,400 miles of road in the state of Wisconsin and 1,780 bridges statewide. We've done that by increasing the funding both at the local level and the state highway system. And at the same time, we've been able to decrease our transportation debt. Debt service has dropped from 20% of the available revenue to about 16% over the last couple of years, which is really important because that allows us to ensure that the money that comes into the state from auto registration and other fees can go directly to fixing the darn roads. And the exciting thing about today's meeting is as a odd number year, today we'll be voting on projects and as well as hearing updates on other projects that are ongoing. These major road projects are part of the broad strategy to modernize Wisconsin and to improve the quality of life for all and keep our state moving forward. The projects that we're considering today have a direct impact on safety and will improve travel efficiency along two major corridors that are critical for freight, including many agricultural projects. So with the actions we're taking as a state and the opportunities we're working with the bipartisan infrastructure law from the federal government, it's obviously an exciting time for transportation. So we're really looking forward to your input today, and I'm going to turn it over to Secretary Thompson.
Thank you, Governor. I also want to welcome the new members, and for those of you that have been veterans of the committee, we've got some new folks from DOT as well that will be presenting today, different as well. So very excited to welcome the new folks involved. As the governor said, really pleased that we're meeting for the fifth straight year for the Transportation Projects Commission. I believe it's very important. While this is one component of the transportation area, it is where our big projects are, that there is significant taxpayer dollars. So it's very important, I think, that we get together on a bipartisan basis along with the citizen members and really give you updates on where we're at on the projects that are out there, on the cost information, the program status information, which you're going to hear about at the beginning. We're also going to give you updates specifically on project and grant updates. And today we are going to have recommendations for new studies. We will be bringing forward 2 of them. I'll talk more specifically about those before we bring those up, but we will be looking to do that as well today too. So while, as the governor said about fixing the infrastructure we have over the last 3 budgets where we've been able to come to agreement on getting new ongoing revenue into transportation for the first time in a long time, those uppers have almost all gone towards the local units of government and the State Highway Rehabilitation Program, which is fixing the infrastructure that we currently have. But there are still these major arteries in our state and some of these thoroughfares that still are very important as well. And we want to make sure we're doing that in a way that there's as much transparency and discussion about whether it's moving forward on a study, or if we get to the point of a study, which would be next year, or looking forward recommending enumeration. So with that, we've got a compressed time frame. I don't want to take up any more of the time, and I will turn it back for a roll call.
Here. Senator Carpenter. Senator Coles.
Here.
Senator Jacques.
Here.
Senator Pat. Here. Senator Tomczyk.
I'm here.
Representative Emerson.
Here.
Representative Crew. Representative Plummer.
Here.
Representative Reamer.
Here.
Representative Spiros.
I'm here.
Here. Executive Director Hannah.
Here.
Mr. Serby.
Present.
And Secretary Thompson.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we'll turn it over to you, Justin, for our report cost information program status.
Oh, yep, go ahead.
Director Buckner.
Sorry, this is to approve the minutes, right? Yeah, okay. No, just the lawyer and me. I noticed that too. I missed that.
Don't need to apologize.
I'll third the motion. I think I used stronger words than concern, but mostly right.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Justin, now I think we can.
Hey, great. Thank you. So get up. Great. Thank you, everyone. I just want to first introduce myself. My name is Justin Schell. I'm the administrator for the Division of Transportation Investment Management at the Wisconsin DOT. I want to take a quick minute to thank the commission, thank Governor Evers, and thank Secretary Thompson for having us here today to talk about the major highway program. A couple of things I was thinking about as I was planning out my presentation with some new members. I thought I'd talk a little bit about some of the roles and responsibilities that the TPC has, and we're working on some materials to provide to all members, but especially the newer members to go over those things. But I just really wanted to hit on 3 key things today before getting into the presentation. The TPC functions to do a couple of things. I'm not sure why that keeps cutting out, but the first one is to monitor the status of the program and projects. And so we do that through a couple of ways. The first way we do that is through our TPC report, which is submitted to the TPC and legislative committees twice a year in February and August. And then the second way is through annual meetings like this. So the first part of my presentation today will be an overview of the August 2023 TPC report. And And then Scott Shaman will come up after my second presentation to give a more detailed project status update on each one of the projects in the report. The second part of my presentation deals more with the second and third roles that the TPC focuses on, which is approval of study projects and then recommendations to enumerate projects for construction. So I'll go through what that process looks like at the beginning of the second presentation. But before that, we'll get into the overview of the status program update. So overall, the TPC report has three components to it. It reviews the major highway program, the Southeast Mega program, and then the major highway study program. We have a table for each one of those programs. This is for the major highway construction projects. Overall, that program increased by 2.8%, which was roughly about $1.1 million. That's program-wide, so that's across all projects, across the entire program, which covers at a minimum about 6 to 8 years. But I wanted to highlight. So you see the totals down here, but I wanted to highlight a couple of projects to go in and give a little more context for their increases. The I-41 project, Wisconsin 96 to Shearing Road, had a 6.6% increase at the project level. And that really made up the bulk of the overall program total. So it was about $70 million. And for that project, those increases were in large part that was due to some real estate that had increased due to some final design changes. We also had some scope change to the Wisconsin 441 alternate route to accommodate some of the needs that we saw there, as well as there were some design and quantity adjustments related to poor soils and to some additional safety work that was needed. The I-39 9094 bridges over the Wisconsin River is another one. It had a 4.6% increase. That comes out to be about $7 million. We did see inflation overall across the program impacting projects. This was one of those projects where inflation was a key factor, but we did have some scope increase due to some additional survey and plat work that was needed for the bridge. That bridge is scheduled to be let in, I believe, April of 2024, so we'll be watching that project closely. And then the last project, oops, went too fast there. Last project, US 51, Stoughton to McFarland. 5.3% increase for the project. It was about a roughly $10 million increase. Again, inflation was a factor here, but the other aspect to this one was that there was some additional work that was requested by a local government, and that work will be covered 100% by local funds. The next table covers the Southeast Mega program. Really no changes here overall for the program, but I'm going to go through the projects individually. The I-94 North-South project, that project is complete now. There's a couple of things that a project needs to accomplish before we remove a project from the report. So it has to be open to traffic, all work is complete, all charges are paid, so that would include things like audits or any kind of litigation, and then no charges on the project for at least 18 months. Once it's accomplished all of those, we remove the individual project sheet, and we still report it at the beginning of the report. There's a table that shows all projects that have been in the major or Southeast Mega program over time. Similarly, excuse me, the Zoo Interchange North Leg project, that project is, all projects have been let, and it was open to traffic as of November 2023. So probably still some additional charges that will come in over time for that project, but similar to North-South, we'll continue to watch that project and remove it from the report whenever it meets that criteria. The last one is I-94 East-West. we're not currently showing it as part of the program table because currently we have a draft environmental document with a preferred alternative that was completed fall of 2022. We expect a final EIS for that project, a record of decision in early 2024. Once we get to that point, we'll start including it in the overall program table. Something to note on this one, the estimated total construction project for the project is $1.465 billion. That's relative to some numbers that have been out there in the past. We did what's called a cost and schedule risk assessment in May of 2023, which produced that estimate. And the conclusion there was that while the project scope has actually decreased slightly from previous scopes, the estimate is higher, and that's entirely because of inflation. Those previous estimates were from 2015. Finally, we have the major highway studies. No program changes here. Should just give a quick update on these though. The Beltline project is July of 2022, we implemented the flex lane on the Beltline. So we're continuing to watch that, and that'll inform any next steps that we have for the Beltline study. I-3990 and the US 51 studies are still ongoing. We hope to conclude those next year, and so we should be coming to you with more information at next year's TPC meeting. This keeps going forward. Major construction project expenditure schedule gives you a high-level overview of what the program looks like. We have the 41 project, the Wisconsin River Bridge, and the 51 projects. Those are just beginning, so we'll watch the project schedules for those for the next couple of years. But the rest of the projects have either concluded or are coming to an end. So over time, we'll continue to see some of those projects drop off of the report. I believe that is all I have on program status. I'll pause there and see if there are any questions.
I guess I don't have a question, but I have just a statement, because I know early on in these meetings, you guys would always come in under budget. And I was very impressed with that. And I'm sure not only am I, you mentioned inflation being a reason for over budget. So personally, I'm surprised it's that low. So well done once again. Because, you're dealing with costs that are already predicted, right?
Thank you. We appreciate that. And you are right. Inflation has been pretty rough the last couple of years. Looking at our Wisconsin Construction Cost Index relative to the beginning of the administration, costs have increased. I believe it's about 32 or 33%. So we've seen significant cost increase over the time. We've been able to manage that through various things and across all of our programs, including, certainly the bipartisan infrastructure law helped us to maintain some of that purchasing power. Increases through the biennial budget have helped us to maintain some of that purchasing power, but all in all, it has created some challenges. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. Senator Coles? Can you hear me?
I can hear him. So
Yes.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yes, we can.
With the additional costs in the projects, what does that do to our balance? Is there somebody there that unspent money this year or the balance?
In terms of is the question whether the increased costs are impacting our schedule?
No, not the okay. The overall costs have gone up. So we had some money unspent in the transportation fund. What what happens with the balance? I mean, it's eating into the available money, correct?
I mean, as far as the major highway program goes, we're staying within the budget that we have in Chapter 20. We adjust the project schedules over time to stay within that budget level. And certainly continue to talk to the Transportation Projects Commission, to the governor about the future schedules and the impacts of current funding levels on timelines for projects.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, I will move on to the next section. Again, this relates back to the second part of the TPC's roles and responsibilities, which is approving major highway projects for study and then recommending them for construction. I thought first I might just give a quick overview of what a major highway project is, because there is a statutory definition. So in statute, a major highway project costs more than $30 million. However, also by statute, the department is required to increase or decrease that amount based on a construction cost index on an annual basis. So currently, that cost threshold is sitting at $54.4 million. And then in terms of the nature of the work, typically a normal major project is relocating a certain amount of highway. It's adding additional lanes to a certain length of highway, or it's converting highway to freeway. There's a second way that a project can come into the major highway program, and that's through what we call our high cost major program. And again, by statute, the cost threshold there is $75 million. It's also indexed, so that cost threshold is currently at $136.6 million. And this projects in this program they don't have to be expansion work. It could be rehab work, but typically what we see is that we don't have many of them, but it's maybe expansion work that just doesn't cross that cost or that length threshold of, say, 5 miles. But anyway, examples of that would be Verona Road, or I believe our Stoughton to McFarland to Stoughton project came in through the high cost major. So there are a couple of steps that projects go through. We're always in the planning process at the DOT. We're using our asset management program to look at needs on the system. We use a performance-based practical design approach to look at needs on the system and determine what appropriate fixes are required for the individual segments. Out of that process, we often find locations that maybe cannot be addressed with a standard rehab project, more comprehensive fix to them. Those projects we flag, and then every 2 years we perform a statewide analysis looking for those types of projects. And then we perform a sort of a deeper analysis on the needs of those projects. That's here in step 2. So from that analysis, we produce a set of projects that we bring to the TPC and we recommend for study. If the TPC approves study, we continue that study for several years. And then if there's an identified need there that requires construction, we bring that back to you, and the TPC can recommend enumeration for construction to the full legislature in the biennial budget. So we are currently sitting here You'll see the study projects come in the odd years. The recommendations for enumeration come in the even years. So major project study candidate selection. As I said, we go through a 2-year analysis to look at the projects. It's a statewide analysis that looks at a number of things such as safety, travel time benefits. We're looking at economic development opportunities as well. So benefits to businesses and any kind of route connectivity that we can improve. This year, more than 30 corridors were assessed. From that list, we gathered 8 projects. We submitted those projects to you in October as projects that we would potentially recommend for study. We don't always study all of the projects that we're considering. We do further analysis on them. From that analysis, we identified 2 projects that need further study. So the 2 candidate projects that we're recommending for study this year, the first one is the US 18151 Madison to Dodgeville project. This one's kind of a unique project because it has 2 different sections to it. One section where we'll be looking at possible expansion. This is the Verona bypass. And so we'll be considering expansion on that portion. And then from Verona out to Dodgeville, we'll be looking at freeway conversion. The second one is US 151 Columbus to Waupun. For that one, we'll be looking at freeway conversion. So digging into the projects a little bit more, the US 18151, I'm going to talk about the 2 sections separately so it can kind of get the individual information on each one of them. The Verona bypass, it's a 7 miles, 4-lane divided facility. And this project picks up just past where the Verona Road Beltline interchange project ended. So it's around County Highway PD and goes to the western edge of Verona. Current traffic on it is 25 to 42,000 a day, and we're forecasting that it'll be 31 to 56,000 by 2042. Another unique aspect of this portion is that it has a really high AM and PM peak traffic volumes, and sort of higher than normal. Additionally, 74% of the bypass has an above average crash rate. So looking back at our crash data, when we began the analysis, we always work with 5 years of crash data. And at the time we started, 2017 to 2021 was the most recent crash data that we had. We had 3 fatal crashes in that time frame on just this section of the corridor. And so we would be looking to expand this to a 6-lane divided facility. Yes, absolutely.
I know for those of you, some of you may not know, a lot of this is connected to Epic and their large footprint in that part of the state of Wisconsin. And will we, and last time I heard they're looking to expand their footprint by 40%, which is just amazing. We're talking thousands of employees there already. Are we concerned about, or will this take into account the on-ramp and off-ramps to that facility or that campus?
Yes. I mean, we do have some interim treatments that are in the schedule to help alleviate some of those pressures, but a major factor, as you said, a major factor of looking at this part of the facility will be to better manage the traffic that's being generated there and consider different access points into the campus. Yep.
I have a question. On a project like this, and with a large generator of traffic like Epic, when you do the study, you take into consideration other forms of transportation that may complement or alleviate just the vehicular factor?
Yes, yes, that is part of the overall study. And I do know that while Epic has several buses that go out to the facility, that there's a potential there to increase that number and thereby maybe increase ridership and alleviates again some of that pressure. So part of that conversation I think would need to happen with Epic separately, because it is you're making a connection between Madison and the a private facility. So to the extent that we can facilitate that conversation as part of this, we will attempt to do that.
Oh, I'm sorry, just to add to that briefly, as Justin said, they do have a relationship with the city of Madison Metro for dedicated bus lines out there. I've had conversations with both the mayor and with Epic about trying to expand that as much as possible. I know the mayor is very interested in that as well. But despite how much we can, we've built that in, and none of that would necessarily change this. But we are hoping to maximize that as much as possible.
Just a process question, maybe for you, Justin, or for Mike, the secretary in the. Is this a decision point that we're making today at this meeting about whether or not to?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I have a slide later on. I wanted to go through both studies first, and then I have a slide where I'll propose two separate motions, one for each study. And then if the TPC decides to take up one or both of those motions at this meeting, that we would support that.
Okay, understood. I'm sitting next to my colleague for one of the projects, but I just want to be clear that was a decision point. So I think I'll text the other one at the moment. And just maybe another process question. Is this the only action we're taking with respect to a decision based on the sort of rectangles you showed us earlier, or is there something else that is a particular decision point in terms of?
I mean, a decision point after this presentation, like I said, we'll provide some recommended motions. If the TPC felt like you needed additional information, we can follow up with additional information. But before we can proceed with study, the TPC would need to take up a motion and approve study.
Okay.
I could just add to that.
So there's going to be there would be two requested actions today, both on studies. And then obviously, this is just the study phase. The study would have to be completed, and then at some point in time, we would come back with a recommendation to enumerate or not enumerate. Basically, that would be a separate action at a separate time. So there would be two action items on the agenda today for two separate study recommendations.
Which is both US 151, the one we're looking at now, and the next one in
The one that would be updated.
Plumbers District. Okay.
Yeah.
Correct. And then it's just two studies. So construction would come at a later point.
Right, understood. Okay.
Okay.
Just, I wanted to be crystal, I'm paying attention to every detail that's put in front of me, but I just want to be crystal clear about the decision points that I'm making, and then even text my colleague from this area and double check with the plumber that he's okay with.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
My votes.
Can I just point out to the governor's point, half of that overall traffic is between the belt line and the west end of Verona. Am I right?
A significant portion of it, if we go back
You go back to the total.
to the totals.
Current or forecast.
Yeah, sorry, I need to go back more. Here we go. So the numbers that we're seeing here, the 42,000, that's probably closer up to the belt line. So we're getting about 42,000 cars coming off the belt line. By the time that we get to that, the Verona Avenue, which is the first exit for Verona, we still haven't gone on the bypass around that first one. We've dropped down to like the 30-ish range, 30,000 or so. 25,000 then continues on is at that western edge. So essentially where the Epic interchange currently is.
It's pretty substantial. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I was just going to say, let's check online.
Yeah, Mr. Secretary, if I could ask a question. This is Senator Jacques.
Yep.
2 of the 8 projects from the October recommendation list for study projects were in Northeast Wisconsin. One was the US 10 to I-41 interchange, and the other was Highway 172 from I-41 to I-43. I'm just curious, I know you said there was going to be additional analysis from that point, and just curious if there's any information you could provide as to maybe why those weren't selected as appropriate at this point.
Restate which projects you were talking about. Was it the?
Yeah, they were listed as they were the 2 in Northeast Wisconsin, kind of critical corridors. One in the Fox Valley, one in the kind of the Green Bay Beltline. That would be US 10 to I-41 interchange is how it's listed in the October letter, and then I-41 to I-43 is how the other one is listed, but that would be the stretch of 172.
Sure. So I think for the US 10 to 41 project, we're always looking at 2 things, and we're looking at its in terms of its performance for operations and also safety. For that location, the safety at that particular corridor did not, while there are some safety issues there, they didn't rise to the level that these 2 projects that we're considering, and we also think that they can be addressed through some lower cost treatments that we can fund through our state highway rehabilitation program. I believe that is, Ben, is that the bridge one as well? Or, yeah, so a lot of the need there is being driven by the bridge over the Fox River. And so what we want to do is we want to monitor that project post I-41 expansion, because we think there might be some interplay between what's happening on that corridor and the I-41 corridor. So once the I-41 project is complete, we'll go back to that location and look at it. I think also with I-41, I forget exactly how this fits in with I-41, but I believe there's some concern that with I-41 under construction, studying it at this time might create some problems, because we wouldn't quite know how to separate out the impacts from construction versus just normal traffic. For the 172 project, the 41 to 43, again, we want to monitor that after construction of the South Crossing. And again, I think let's see, sorry, is that, again, some safety issues there, but things that we think we can handle through our state highway rehabilitation program. And in those instances, what we're doing is we try to identify lower cost projects or treatments, I should say, and then we monitor those to see if a more comprehensive need is, or a comprehensive fix is needed at a later time.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I know that this isn't saying that those projects wouldn't proceed forward at some future date. I do get some complaints about congestion there on that Highway 10 to 41 stretch, but I think with 172, what really comes to mind, because I come through there all the time, it's kind of the most notorious bad intersection in the county in terms of that eastbound off ramp to Webster from 172. There really needs to be some sort of an engineering solution because that's just I've seen too many near misses at that location. But appreciate very much the additional information. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments because we've noted them and we'll take them back to the region team so that they can look at them and take that into consideration as they continue to look at that location. As I hope I said earlier, but if I didn't, I'll say it now. Just because we're not recommending study on these projects doesn't mean that we're not continuing to look at the needs at those locations. It's part of our annual process for planning and asset management. We'll continue to look at those, and if we can identify low-cost solutions, we will implement those solutions. Any other questions? All right, I will proceed. I think we were now on the Verona to Dodgeville. This is a 28-mile expressway, so currently there are at-grade intersections and driveway access. We would be converting it to freeway. There is a portion that's currently a freeway. It's the 5-mile Mount Horeb bypass. Poor safety, whoops, sorry. Poor, keep hitting the button, I guess. Poor safety performance. There have been 3 fatal crashes on this particular section just in 2023 to date. So again, we want to study this, but we're also looking at interim solutions. We have some things that we have tried to do in the past, and we have things in the schedule to help address some of those safety concerns in the short term. The study will look at whether there's a more comprehensive need here beyond those short-term or low-cost fixes. Current traffic on this is 15 to 23,000 a day and projected to be around 17 to 29,000 in 2042. The second project that we're recommending, US 151, Columbus to Waupun. It's a 26-mile expressway corridor. Again, we're recommending conversion to freeway. The 2022 traffic was between 18 and 24,000. Our 42 projection is 21 to 28,000. Again, poor safety performance here is really the driving factor. 54% of the corridor is above average crash or severe crash rates, with 28% of that being significantly above the average. 5 fatalities already in 2023. Again, we're looking at treatments that we can do now, but we want to study whether there are more comprehensive solutions that are needed. All in all, both of these projects have very strong safety benefits associated with them. That's why we're bringing them to you here today. And if unless there are any questions, as I mentioned earlier, we have 2 motions to consider. First motion, recommend study of US 18151 Madison to Dodgeville. The second motion would be to recommend study of US 151 Columbus to Waupun. Any questions?
I just have one real quick one. So when you do these studies that we have fatalities on both these stretches, how much does speed factor in? Because sometimes I'm out driving on the highway, I think my car quit. The way these people fly by me.
Yeah, I think it's always can be a problem. I think, and this is anecdotal on my part, but I think everyone would agree that it's becoming an increasing problem. There are higher speeds. People are driving higher speeds. I saw something on our social media from State Patrol where somebody was driving, 100 miles an hour and complained to the trooper that somebody else was driving faster than me. So I do think there are higher speeds out there. And so to the extent that we can, we try to develop things that develop facilities that address that, but also a big part of it is enforcement and and education.
Just communicated quickly with Representative Mike Baer, who doesn't cover the entirety of the projects, but covers the part of Verona, I believe, Mount Horeb, and especially the expansion project around Verona. And he indicated by text, I haven't had the chance to chat with him too much, but that he was supportive.
Okay.
So I'll be supportive of the recommendations, but yeah.
Thank you.
I make the motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Second. Any further discussions?
Just on both of them?
I make the motion on both of them.
And will you second?
Sure.
Thank you.
Make it clear.
Just to be clear.
Just to be clear. We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none.
Just to fill the air, maybe just in the, I was lacking a little clarity on this being the sort of decision point. And Rep Bear was able to text me back, but just, I know this came out Friday. I know that, you know, as legislators, at least we're used to making decisions pretty quickly. But yeah, any little bit of lead time so we can touch base with colleagues helps. But
Okay.
having done that, I'm supportive of both studies, that's all.
Yeah, no, that is an excellent point. So we will take note of that.
Sure.
The first time we've recommended study since 2011, so it's been a little while. But we will take note of that and improve our process for next time.
Sure. I can see that the decision point is here. I just think we're used to a different committee process and where the decisions are in order to.
We don't like change. No.
It's it's useful to give a heads up to our colleagues as a courtesy, and if there were major concerns that he or the Rep Plummer, but you're right here. I don't know who else is in that district, but it sounds like it's
Bourne, but I'm sure.
Board's okay. Okay. It just helps to then bring some additional questions, and if there are concerns, take that into account. But
Okay.
and for what it's worth, Rep Bear is supportive and texted me back in the last 10 minutes. So
Okay.
So we are trying to give you as much lead time as we can. So I think the 8 we sent out quite a bit ahead of time, but the narrowing it down to 2, it was only about a week. So, you know, some of this got compressed, but we take what you say and we will make sure we try to give you as much lead time as possible.
To be fair, we are accustomed to voting with 24 and a half hours notice. So we're used to quick decisions, but it just because the projects are significant and the things that the department does or doesn't do can often be, you know, locally significant and controversial at times. It just helps to touch base with colleagues with some time to have those conversations.
Yep. And part of
again, I'm voting yes, so I'm not trying.
Yeah, but again, I appreciate the comments because it's useful for us and just to the point of community engagement, that will be part of the study process is reaching out to the communities, getting that understanding of what their local needs might be and how that in terms of how those needs might factor into the overall needs of the facility.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Unless there are any other questions, I will.
Yeah, there's a motion in a second.
Okay.
We have motion and second. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks, Justin. The little bit of time we have left, we did want to, Scott's going to give an update on the project at project level of what's going on out there. So, Scott?
Quick question.
Just a question. I know you said that you were kind of studying 30 different actions. Is that listed anywhere?
We shared the 8. I don't know if we shared all 30 that we began with.
Screening. It's a more of a conversation with our regions to determine what might be out there. But typically we narrow it down to that smaller list pretty quickly.
Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Scott Shaneman. I'm the director of the Bureau of State Highway Programs. Going to be going over some of the major project and mega project and study updates today. Since this is my first time speaking to the TPC, just a little bit of information about myself. I've been working in the major projects since 2011, first up on the I-41 project in near Green Bay, then on I-39 from Illinois State Line up to Madison, as well as the Verona Road project. So it's been a significant amount of time in the majors program. I'm excited to be here today to talk about all the great work that's going on around the state. Starting first off with some of the grant applications that we've been applying for and receiving. To reiterate, from last year, we had received the Wisconsin River Bridge, $80 million for that project. As Justin had mentioned, that project will be let here in April, so finally being able to put that money to work. Next up, outside of the majors and the mega program, but still significant, I-41 from Burleigh Street to Silver Spring Drive, so just north of where the north leg of the zoo cuts off. We received $15 million for a resurfacing project, as well as that project will be addressing safety and operational concerns by adding auxiliary lanes in between some of the interchanges. For grants that we have been recently applying for, the big one up at the top there was the Blotnick Bridge in coordination with Minnesota DOT. We submitted that for both the MPDG grant as well as the Bridge Investment Program, requesting from US DOT 60% or $1.078 billion for that project. This is a similar strategy that Kentucky, Ohio took when they submitted for the Brett Spence Bridge last year. They had received $1.65 billion for that project. So part of this application this year, we had a strong funding commitment letter to US DOT, mostly in thanks to a lot of folks here in this room for the $400 million that we were able to dedicate towards that project. Gave us a stronger application and gave us the ability to put our best foot forward and hopefully receive those funds. Next, I-41 Appleton to Pier. I'll get into the project details later, but we requested $150 million for that project. And also outside the majors and the megas, but important as well, we submitted a grant application for the I-90 Sparta Safety Rest Area and Truck Parking Expansion. This safety rest area is located on the westbound side of I-90 between La Crosse and Toma, one of the oldest in the state, originally constructed in 1969. We're expanding it from 13 truck parking stalls up to 72, a new facility, as well as an oversized, overweight staging area. So then first turning to the Northeast region, last year we had wrapped up State Highway 23. So looking first at State Highway 15 from 76 to New London. This project is anticipated to be complete at the end of 2024, although significant portions of the project, mainly the eastern 2/3 of it, have already been completed. The eastern 2/3 encompasses the bypass around Hortonville. Here's a picture of the eastern roundabout. And the south side, which is on the top there, does the dog leg, and that ends up being the main street going into Hortonville there. Major commuter route and creating a new 4-lane divided facility there. And since the major portion, the eastern 2/3 has been completed, they had a ribbon cutting last month for that. Next up, the I-41 Appleton to Pier project. This is the expansion from 4 lanes to 6 lanes on the northwest corner of Appleton, where right now it's 6 lanes up until the Timber Rattler Stadium area at College in Wisconsin. So it'll go 6 lanes all the way from that up to Shearing Road, where it picks up at 6 lanes as well from the previous projects. Significant some other things to point out on this project. We'll be constructing auxiliary lanes in between more of the tightly spaced, heavily used interchanges. So Wisconsin and Northland, Richmond and Ballard, Dellenglade and Law, and the new Southbridge Road interchange and Shearing Road. And just to touch a little bit more on the Southbridge interchange, the Southbridge interchange itself, all the way out to the ramp terminals, is part of the I-41 project. But the Southbridge Connector project, which will be doing the bridge and connecting into this, is Brown County. So the two teams are coordinating, but they are separate projects. I guess the last thing to note on this is the system interchange there at 441. They'll be eliminating the tight 25-mile-per-hour loop ramps and making that more of a free flow design, and also installing collector distributor lanes between Ballard and the new system interchange. Then looking down at Southeast, we have both majors and megas. Majors are in blue, the megas are in green. Looking first to State Highway 50, which was completed earlier this year. That's down in Kenosha County. This was an expansion from 4 to 6 lanes for roughly 3.5 to 4 miles, and then the reconstruction of 4 lanes on the eastern mile of the project. Shown here is State Highway 50 and 31 intersection with the nice Kenosha water tower there in the background. And of course, completion of the project, bust out the scissors and do the ribbon cutting event. They look a little warmer on that one than the last one. Next is I-43, just north of Milwaukee. This is a 14-mile project from Silver Spring Drive up to State Highway 60. This project is anticipated to be completed in summer of 2025, although significant portions of it will be completed at the end of 2024. There still have the Mequon Road interchange to go, as well as a couple portions on the north and south sides of the project. Shown here is the Port Washington Road interchange. Prior to construction, this interchange was only a southbound off, southbound on interchange, so just a partial. Post-construction here, this is now all 4 legs of the interchange are opened up and have access. Another project that wrapped up this year is the north leg of the Zoo interchange. This time they did give Secretary Thompson some scissors. But this project was wrapped up last month. This goes from Swan Road up to Burleigh Street. So redoing the interchanges at both North Ave and Burleigh, as well as some significant coordination that had to occur for the railroad to stay open during construction. Going from left to right here in the first picture, you can see the existing railroad bridge there on the top side of it. They're constructing a temporary railroad structure just to the west of the existing. June of 2022, the temporary structure has been completed. The rail line has been switched over, and the old bridge has been torn down. They're starting to construct a new one. November 22, kind of switching camera angles here a little bit. The new structure has been completed. They're in the process of switching back over the rail line. And then September 23, the temporary structure has been removed and the area has been restored. A lot of coordination to make sure everything works right. Next up, and the last one for the Southeast Megas is the I-94 East-West project. As previously mentioned, this project is going through its final environmental impact statement and record of decision that's anticipated early in 2024. Assuming that all goes through, we could be looking at construction as early as 2025. This project is 3.5 miles from 70th to 16th with 5 interchanges in between, with the State Highway 175 Stadium interchange being the large one smack dab in the middle there. And they are proposing 8 lanes through the corridor. So looking a little bit at the preferred alternative for the stadium interchange. Previous iterations of this had 175 elevated, it had 94 going underneath it, and then it had flyover ramps above that, so kind of a 3-tiered interchange. The new design takes 175 as a DDI down to at grade, and then has just 94 coming over the top of it. So diverging diamond interchange, sorry. Get used to the acronyms all the time. So this fits the purpose and need of the area with the anticipated traffic volumes we're seeing in there. And then lastly, looking at Southwest, again, blue is the major enumerated major projects and red are the ongoing studies. The first project, Wisconsin River Bridges, I feel like we've talked about that one quite a bit. That project will be let here in April and start construction. The next one is 51 Stoughton to McFarland. The first project for this entire project was let this past month, and that is the BAB roundabout just west of Lake Kegonsa there, kicking off the entire corridor. That was a safety project that we wanted to make sure got out ahead of the rest of the corridor. Then looking at US 53 La Crosse corridors. 2 years ago, TPC had approved this project to continue under its current enumeration, taking a different approach. So they're looking at safety and operational issues on alignment for 16, 35, and 53. The team has done some great work so far, and the first public involvement meeting will be upcoming early in 2024. And then next are two studies. We have I-3990 from the Beltline all the way up to just north of the Dells. This is looking at 15 interchanges along the way, potentially expanding out to 8 lanes. Most notable interchanges is the 30 Badger interchange, the 151, 19 near Windsor and Wanakee, and then also the 3990-94 system interchange split, which we know has a history of flooding. So that project is ongoing. Hoping that environmental document will be finishing up here in 2024 for potential enumeration recommendation. And then lastly, 51, the Stoughton Road project from just south of the Beltline up to just south of I-3990-94, where the other study limits are. This project is split into a north and south section, with Highway 30 being the divider. The north segment is further along. They're anticipating for a environmental document being wrapped up at the end of 2024 for potential enumeration next year. This one is looking at some of the major interchanges, which would be Highway 30, as well as the 151 East Washington interchange. So there's a range of alternatives out there that they've been displaying in their public involvement meetings. And then lastly, the south side of the road, this one is a little bit not quite as far ahead. They're still kind of going through some of the initial concepts for this project. So with that, I tried to get us out of here on time. I went as fast as I could, but if there are any questions, I can take them.
Questions? Any of those? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. From the local standpoint, a lot of these projects that are finishing up are really improving the quality of life in our communities. They're fantastic. They're a long time coming, but we're really appreciative of them. So
that's great. Thank you. Any other compliments? No, any other questions or comments? I'm sorry. Hearing none. I'm sorry.
Whether for the secretary or Secretary Thompson, the commission secretary, Mike, or anyone else at the department, or you, Mr. Governor, are we meeting again in a year? Is that the plan? Okay. And then just to, based on my previous comments, some sense of what those decision points will be, and just maybe a little more runway to get some time to chat with colleagues about decisions as they come up. It's my read from the chart that we got that the even year would create a different decision.
So even versus odd numbers in the statutes require for different things. So we will both, by the way, for any of the offices, we're willing to meet anytime before then. But right now, a year out, I can tell you the one thing that if we get to the point in time that Scott was just talking about, would be the study on 3990-94 from Madison to the Dells, that we would anticipate if everything goes, we get everything done, bringing a recommendation on that one for enumeration. Is there other recommendations for enumeration that we're anticipating?
Looking at, there's the potential that either one or both of those could come for enumeration recommendations. So that's the two that Scott just covered, the I-39 and the 51.
But we will be coming out. What's our next TPC report? We'll be coming out in what month?
February.
In February. So that'll be another one. And then, but we will try to give you as much lead time before the next meeting.
Probably the 3990, the Dells one we just saw, and then sorry, which 51 was
the northern portion of US 51? So that would be there's two segments to the study. There's a portion, and Scott, help me out. Is it from East Washington?
It's just the north segment goes from just south of 30 all the way up to just south of I-3990.
Yeah. Thank you. That's pretty much all I need. And then can just map who's the rep and the senator, have brief conversations with them, and come back to the meeting. We're pretty much ready to make a decision.
Great.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Have a good Christmas, New Year's.
Thanks, everyone.